Hi everyone, this is the 1907 diary entry, and it's a very nice day here in the Portland area. It's sunny and not at all windy, and so that makes it actually, in that respect, a little nicer than what it was in the Crimea on the 21st of September 1907, which was a Friday. Here it is a Monday. Okay, so I left you hanging a little bit yesterday about what was going to happen in two respects. If Papa was going to come through for Dmitri and send him some nice gifts this year, and maybe even some smoking things, which is what he really wanted. That was the first cliffhanger, and the other was if Aunt Minnie would end up taking the kids to Yalta, which Dmitri anticipated would cause trouble with laming. So he was very much hoping they wouldn't. So today we get the answers to those questions. So let's dive right in. I got up late today at 8 o'clock. We swam at 8:30, then had tea. After coffee, I received my gifts from Papa, a walking stick and a watercolor. Very good. At 10:30, there was a prayer service, after which we just loafed around doing nothing until 12:30, when lunch was served. Aunt Minnie and Uncle George came. After lunch, we spent the whole day at Harax, from which we went to Aitador for dinner. At Harax, we climbed on the rocks and caught crabs, which was very difficult because the water kept drenching us. Then we drank tea in Aunt's room, then played with the children and listened to the gramophone. And then, after the children went to bed, we sat downstairs in the living room and talked or looked at magazines. It was very windy today, so sitting indoors, one could hear the crash of the waves. Thank God! Exclamation point. Everyone was in a good mood. It wasn't particularly fun at Aitador at the beginning, but then Eshopar told us some very interesting things, so it got more enjoyable. Only Maria behaved very dissolutely at the end. And I'm not smoking. Crazy! Exclamation point. That was only a dream. Oh! Exclamation point. 12 o'clock. All right. Well, our friend seems to be in a relatively good mood himself, although he's not giving us a lot of detail of things that could have been interesting. He slips up a little here when he talks about after swimming they had tea. After swimming at 8:30 they had tea, and after coffee he received his gifts from Papa, and their usual habit, as you know, is to go swimming and then have coffee. But he uses both tea and coffee this time. So maybe that means that he drank tea, even though they called this little breakfast coffee. I don't know, not important. So what does Papa come through with? Well, not with the one thing that Dmitri really, really wanted. But on the other hand, it's not as bad as in 1906 with those handkerchiefs. Okay, so he gets a stick from Papa. So that's the word he uses, both in 1906 when he also got one, and in 1907. I took the liberty of putting in walking stick because I can't imagine what other kind of stick it would be. I mean, obviously he didn't pick up a stick in the park and send that to Dmitri. So, yeah, a walking stick. I don't know. Why does he think that Dmitri needs a new walking stick every year? Again, I don't know. Maybe Dmitri is collecting them. And he also gets watercolor. Well, wouldn't it have been nice if he'd just taken a second to jot down what the watercolor showed? If it was a landscape or what. He says very good. In parentheses, I guess that could either mean that it was very well done or that it was a very good present or both. Anyway, he's not moping like he did last year. He doesn't seem to be really crushed like he was the year before with those handkerchiefs. So that's good. There's a prayer service after that. I'm not sure why. And maybe it was in a home chapel because he doesn't talk about going to church. And then brother and sister just kind of loaf around doing nothing for a couple hours. Well, by that point, probably only an hour or a half hour. And then they have lunch. And Aunt Minnie and Uncle George had been invited to lunch. So that was the point of danger. That was the point where Dmitri thought, well, after lunch, they might want to take us off to Yalta, and that will cause problems. But they didn't. Instead, they took the kids back with them to their country estate, Haraks, their Crimean estate. And the plan was that they would spend some time there, and then they would go to Aitador, the estate of Grand Duke Alexander Mikhailovich and Grand Duchess Ksenia, Uncle Sandro, and Aunt Ksenia. They'll be going there for dinner. Okay, so I ask you, as you contemplate the next paragraph, to picture a very normal family scene. Reminds me of my childhood. The family would go to the Oregon coast, and my grandparents would be there, and it was great. We climbed on the rocks. We didn't go crabbing. We went. We would get razor clams, dig them up on the beach. I have a lot of friends who go crabbing, but that's never been my thing. My brother was going crabbing like crazy one year. But anyway, that's what they do at Haraks, and they got wet. Hopefully they had brought some other clothes with them. I don't know what they would have done, since Dmitri says they got drenched. But then they go up to Aunt's room, he puts it, or Aunt's, just Aunt's, the possessive form of Aunt without adding anything else. I added the room. I assume she must have had something like the Empress's boudoir, where Nicholas and Alexandra and their children had tea, I believe, every day in Alexandra's boudoir. And so, maybe this was the tradition if you lived in a palace or in a country house. Tea would be in mother's boudoir or aunts. So they go there, they play with little Nina and little Ksenia, they listen to the gramophone, they look at magazines. When the kids go to bed, they go downstairs to the living room, not the perfect word, but what do you say? The parlor, the salon, the main place where people spend time in the evening. And they talk and they look at the magazines, and it's very sort of cozy and grown up and really, really easy to visualize. So that's what they do until it's time to leave for Aitador. And I should add that we've got a little bit of our friend Dmitri the poet as he describes listening to the crash of the waves on this stormy, windy day. Thank God, he says, everyone was in a good mood. The general mood was good. So, you know him well enough by now to know how important that was to him, and how that was he took that on as sort of his personal task to try and prevent there being a bad mood or a bad atmosphere in general. He didn't have a lot of fun at the beginning, but then there's this person named Eshopar. No idea, obviously not a Russian name, but he tells interesting stories, and so things become more enjoyable. Why wasn't it fun in general? I don't know. Sandro and Ksenia seem like they would have been a fun couple, and Irina would surely have been there. She was about 12, and some of her younger brothers maybe, but Dmitri's just not having a good time until this Eshopar steps in. And maybe he's again worried about moods, and maybe he's worried about Maria, and how she's going to behave, and she's been having a difficult time. And he uses this word dissolutely. Another interpretation of that verb could be promiscuously, but I don't know why he likes that particular word. He likes that word. He likes the word indecent. She is not, I'm quite certain, behaving promiscuously. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe there were some young officers there, and Dmitri thought she was. Him. He's always thinking that people are behaving inappropriately in some way or another. But anyway, he's keeping his eye on her as he keeps his eye on everyone, and he doesn't like the way she's behaving. Finally, he's resigned himself, but he still can't quite let it go about the smoking. And crazy, an exclamation point. Oh, I'm wondering what was the age that a young man typically began smoking at that time. I'm not sure if women smoked quite yet in 1907. I'm sure some did. Maria is 17, and I think if she was smoking, Dmitri might have mentioned that, I would think. But I wonder if he feels like by the time they're 16, boys should be able to smoke, and boys do smoke. Other boys his age smoke. So I wonder why if that's why he finds this so crazy. Anyway, he doesn't realize it, but it was very much for his. It was good for him that he wasn't smoking or even earlier than he already did. Unless, of course, here I am rambling, but unless, of course, as I suspect, he was smoking from time to time, just secretly. All right, so tomorrow they do go to Yalta. So come back for that, and we'll see how that turns out. All right, bye.